pause that for the record. All right, so we're going to start that. Right, Jeff?
All right. So,
Before you start though, the official meeting, this is complicated, having folks in the Zoom, which I'm very happy you're there, and folks in the room, and I'm also happy they're here. And here I am, so you can see me. So just please be patient with us. We know you can hear all our rustling and us eating and drinking. So during the presentations, we will mute ourselves, which will take a little longer because of muting and unmuting and all that. But please be patient with that. And also with our rustling, we will try to keep it to a minimum and, you know, and take part, of course. There's one extra item on the agenda that Bill Herman will help me with, and that is to make sure that we can get all those commissioners that are virtually participating, that we can make sure that your vote counts. And so we have to first allow that to happen, and you'll understand that in a few moments. I think now, Jeff, we're ready.
all right. So the forum present at the meeting location can vote to allow remote participation by other commissioners in conformance with RSA 91A. So I'll call the order of the Metropolitan Planning Organization. First action is the meeting minutes of May 25th, 2021. We have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I think the first action is to take a vote to allow remote people to participate in votes.
Dave Pierce, motion to allow commissioners who are virtual to.
We have a written statement, thanks to Bill Herman.
Defer to the chair.
All right, so that little one didn't work. Move to authorize the Metropolitan Planning Organization of the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission and the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission to allow one or more members of those bodies to participate in the June 22nd, 2021 meeting by electronic means of communication subject to the provision of RSA 91-A23. This would include each member of the public body attending virtually to articulate for the minutes why they are participating virtually and identify other persons present in the location from which the member is participating. Further, each part of the meeting must be audible or otherwise discernible to the public at the location of the meeting, and all votes of the public body be taken by roll call vote.
For a motion to that effect? That require a motion?
Yes,
Do we have a second?
I was so moved.
Al motions
Second.
and second from Dave Pierce. All right, we will, to make things easier, I'm going to go around the room first, and then we'll go to our virtual participants. Okay, so around the room, I'll start with Jeff Moulton from Derry.
Here.
Here,
Yes.
here and yes. We'll go with DOT and Linda Dusenberry. Here and yes. Thank you. And we have one vote from DOT, so we'll leave it at that. I'll go with Bill DeShaco from Bedford.
Yes.
Here and yes. Cutler Brown from Hooksett. No, that's not Cutler. I'm sorry.
Hi, Francis Dow.
Francis, oh, you're Al, of course. I haven't seen you in so long.
Right.
Al Eisenberg, never mind. Cutler Brown, I knew that was weird. So Al Eisenberg from Francistown.
Here and yes.
Thank you, Al. Dave Pierce from Goffstown.
Yes, here and vote yes.
Al Hall, Candia.
Here and yes.
Okay, Bedford gets 3, so we can actually go to Charlie Fairman,
Here and yes.
Bedford. Bob Cody,
Here and yes.
Deerfield. Deb Munson, Chester.
Here and yes.
Bill Herman, Auburn.
Here and yes.
Suzanne Brunel,
Here and yes.
Londonderry, and Bill Jean, Bedford.
Here and yes.
Okay, now I move to all those online. So we'll go down the list. Barbara Salvatore, Bedford.
Here and yes.
Thanks, Barbara. Let's see, what do I have next? Fred McGarry, Deerfield.
Here and yes.
Thank you. We have John O'Connor from
Here and
Derry.
abstain.
Here abstain, okay. No one else from Francistown or Goffstown or Hooksett. Londonderry, we have Art Rugg
Here and yes.
and Deb Levin.
Here and yes, and my husband may pass through the room.
Thank you. Manchester, we have Peter Capano,
Here and yes.
and we have New Boston, Mark Sunan.
Here by myself and yes.
Ware, we have Tom Clow,
Here, yes.
and Wyndham, we have Peter Griffin.
Here and yes.
Have I missed anyone?
Brian Battaglia.
Thank you, Brian. Brian Battaglia from Londonderry. And are you a here and yes?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Anyone
Brian
else?
Lord from Bedford's here and yes for me.
Who is from Bedford? Brian Lord?
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else I missed? Okay. I'm ready now.
All right, so we'll call the order of the Metropolitan Planning Organization. First action is the minutes of May 25th, 2021.
I move approval of minutes of May 25th.
Second.
Bill seconds.
Okay, Al Hall and Bill Herman. And now I'm going to go according to town. So this may be all over, but I'm just to note, Barbara Griffin from Goffstown just joined us. So let's start with Auburn. Bill Herman,
Yes.
Bedford, Bill DeShaco,
Yes.
Charlie Fairman,
Yes.
Bill Jean,
Yes.
Barbara Salvatore,
Yes.
Brian Lord,
Yes.
Candia Al Hall,
Yes.
Deb Munson and Chester. Yes. Deerfield, Bob Cody,
Abstain.
Fred McGarry. We're doing the minutes, Fred.
Oh, yes. So
Thank you.
I abstain.
Oh, abstain. Okay, thank you. Derry, we have Jeff Moulton,
Abstain.
John O'Connor,
Abstain.
Francistown, Al Eisenberg,
Yes.
Goffstown, Dave Pierce,
Abstain.
Barbara Griffin.
Yes.
Welcome, Barbara. And let's see, Londonderry, we have Art Rugg,
Yes.
Brian Battaglia,
Yes.
Deb Levins,
Yes.
Suzanne Brunel. From Manchester, we have Peter Capano,
Yes.
Dan, oh, sorry, not Dan O'Neill. New Boston, we have Mark Sunan.
Yes.
In Ware, we have Tom Clow,
Abstain.
and Wyndham, Peter Griffin.
Yes.
And DOT, we have Linda Dusenberry.
I abstain.
Okay. All right, we've gotten through the minutes. And the roll call, exciting. It'll get better with time. It's just this first time is a little cray-cray. All right, so I think we're ready for the next item,
Which will be Carl.
which will be Carl.
Hello.
Carl, I will make you a co-host.
Thank you. Good late
All
morning,
right.
everyone. Again, Carl Epic with the commission, Principal Transportation Planner, and I've got a brief presentation here for you. Last month we talked about it. It's the Transportation Improvement Program, TIP Amendment number 1. Let me just see if I can get the PowerPoint up. Here we go. Everybody hear me okay and now see a PowerPoint on the screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Slideshow button, and sometimes this takes a second, but let me know. There we go. You should see it up there now, right?
Yes, and I will mute us so that you don't hear all our background noises.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Sylvia. Well, you know, as we showed you last month, DOT and the commission, the MPO, have coordinated to update the TIP with TIP Amendment number 1 for our FY 2021-2024 program. And this was done just because over time, we collect a series of projects that either need to be added or removed. There's funding and cost adjustments or scope changes. And so I'm going to go through about 9-10 projects that have these types of changes, and I'll know what they are at the time. We also had to release, basically we released amendment number 1 to the public on our website and in the paper, and we've held a 10-day public comment period. So I believe at the end of this presentation, we'll open a public hearing and then close it to hear about comments, and then for you all to consider adoption of TIP Amendment number 1. So unless there's any other questions, I'll start right immediately. Project number 1 is a Bedford Merrimack project to improve the Bedford Mainline Toll Plaza to institute all electronic tolling. And this amendment is really to add a PE phase in 2021, 2022, increase a construction phase funding, and then delaying the overall construction to FY 2023, 2024. And the reason for this proposed amendment is that the costs and timeline of the project have been updated to reflect this all electronic tolling scope of work. Good news, all electronic tolling coming there in the near future. The second one is a Manchester project, again related to the Turnpike. This is reconstruction of exit 7 on the FE Everett Turnpike. The proposed amendment is to remove the project from this current TIP. And the reason for this, as you may all recall, or those who haven't heard, is that the I-293 exit 6 and 7 reconstruction projects are now being delayed due to Turnpike program fiscal constraints related to the COVID-19 pandemic and the decrease in Turnpike revenues. This affects both 6 and 7, and they're not canceled. They're just pushed out until the FY 2028-2031 for exit 6 and FY 26-28 for this one, exit 7. The reason exit 6 isn't in this one, it's in the next TIP. So we're not, it'll be dealt with, but it's not part of this TIP amendment. Next project is another Manchester project, and this is an addition to construct a multi-use path along the abandoned rail corridor from Gold Street to Perimeter Road. And in order to get this project going, we need to add a PE phase for work in fiscal year 2021. And the reason is because this is an added phase. The project is now in the amendment number 1 project list in the financial constraint report. Next one is a Nashua Manchester project, the New Hampshire Capital Corridor. The proposed amendment is a scope change only, and this is really about defining the scope specifically as, quote, design, environmental review, and financial plan for commuter rail extension from Mass to New Hampshire. And the reason for this amendment is just to align the scope, to make it mirror what is in the adopted 10-year plan, make it consistent within this TIP. Next one is a FTA program, FTA 5339. That program is for capital bus and bus facilities. And this is a statewide public transportation program. Proposed amendment is to increase the overall FY 2021-2023 funding and to decrease the FY 2024 funding. The reason for this proposed amendment is to reflect increased federal apportionments to New Hampshire for the FTA section 5339 program and anticipated project expenditures. So overall, there's more money coming into this program for FY 2021-23, but there is in single year FY 2024 some decrease, but overall it's more funding for New Hampshire. Next one's program LTAP, Local Technology Assistance Program, administered by the Technology Transfer Center at UNH. And this one is to change the notation for the work, for the work of the phase SPR to other. And this is an administrative change to ensure consistency with the federally recognized work phases, just a notational correction. The next one is TISMO, program TISMO, which is Statewide Transportation Systems Management and Operations, which is ITS technologies. ITS, you may recall, is Intelligent Transportation Systems, Traveler Information Systems. And the proposed amendment is to increase funding for the FY 2023-24 period. And the reason for this proposed amendment is to reflect anticipated project expenditures for 9 statewide initiatives. And here's a quick list of 4 or 5 of these to give you some examples of what these are, but there's a list of 9 total. And the good news is it's overall increase in funding for these systems and applying in the 2023-24 year. Next one's a statewide program, Road Weather Information Systems. This is a scope change only. The proposed amendment is to define the scope of this project as, quote, to install road and weather information systems around the state. And like the other earlier scope change, this is the reason for this is to better represent the anticipated scope of work for the project. Next one is another statewide project for USGS 2021 ortho imagery acquisition. Proposed amendment, scope change only, is to define the scope of the project as statewide USGS 2021 ortho imagery acquisition and services. And again, the reason for this amendment is to better represent the anticipated scope of work for the project. And that is your tip amendment number 1 contestants. Are there any questions at this point that I, Nate, or somebody from DOT could help you with? Otherwise, I think we're entertaining a motion for adoption.
Motion?
So moved.
All right, so I heard Al Hall. At the same time, I heard Peter Griffin. And Carl, you can stop sharing.
Thank you.
Then we can get a full view of our participants.
Sylvia, just to be clear, and this is where the public comment period, the public hearing, of course. I'm not sure what the formality is to open that and close that.
All right, Nate.
Yeah, if there are any public comments at this time, we would welcome them. If not, I think the chair would welcome a motion to adopt tip amendment number 1.
Do we have anybody from the public?
We can just sort of offer that. So I'm not seeing any comments from the. All right. So we had a motion from Peter Griffin. Al, would you like to second that? All right. Okay, with everyone, I go through the roll call. Okay, we'll go again by community. Auburn, Bill Herman.
Yes.
Bedford, we have Bill DeShaco.
Yes.
Charlie Fairman.
Yes.
Bill Jean.
Aye.
Barbara Salvatore.
Aye, but I saw somebody with a hand up and her name is Tammy Zanowski.
All right, thank you. Thank you,
Sure.
Tammy.
Thank you. I just wanted to show my support for the multi-use path from Gold to Perimeter. And I'm representing the Queen City Bike Collective, and I can just say that that is a critical transportation corridor connecting people from our downtown neighborhoods to the essential services along Willow Street, including jobs and shopping.
Wonderful. First, just thanks for joining us. That's exciting. We hope we see your face again. And love to hear that we actually had public comment. So thank you so much. And thanks, Barbara, for that heads up. I'm sorry I missed there's so much going on, my head's spinning. So yeah, just give me a shout out, anyone in future. And thank you again, Barbara. All right, we'll continue. So Barbara Salvatore, remind us, you have a thumbs up. She's a yes. Brian Lord.
Yes.
Thank you, Brian. From Candia, we have Al Hall.
Yes.
Chester, Deb Munson.
Yes.
Deerfield, we have Bob Cody
Yes.
and Fred McGarry. Fred, you there?
I'm here, yes.
Thank you, Fred. Derry, we have Jeff Moulton,
Yes.
John O'Connor,
Yes.
Francistown, Al Eisenberg.
Yes.
Thanks, Al. Goffstown, Dave Pierce.
Yes.
Londonderry, Art Rugg.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Barbara Griffin from Goffstown.
Yes.
Thanks, Barbara. You can have you highlighted. All right, let's see. I did Art Rugg, right? Brian, did I do Brian Battaglia already?
Yes.
Thank you. Deborah Levens
Yes.
and Suzanne Brunel.
Yes.
Thanks, Suzanne. Manchester, we have Peter Capano.
Yes, thank Tammy for her input and yes on the motion.
Thank you. New Boston, Mark Sunin.
Yes.
Ware, Tom Clow.
Yes.
And Peter Griffin.
Yes.
And DOT, we have Linda Dusenberry. All right.
Sylvia, Ray Clement here. I approve also.
Sorry, Ray, why don't I have you highlighted yet? Thank you, Ray. So sorry about that.
I got in late.
No, you did, but I saw that you came in. My head's a little spinning from all this. All right. We're ready for the next thing.
All right, next item is the 2021 Regional Trails Plan with Adam.
All right.
Now I'll make Adam a co-host. Actually, I can't seem to do that, so. Oh, Adam already signed in. Okay, good.
Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to go over the Regional Trails Plan update today. The original Regional Trails Plan was finished in 2012. And as you might imagine, there have been a lot of changes to our trails since then. This effort has been several years in the making, and we've worked with the Central New Hampshire Regional Planning Commission. So we're excited to share the plan with you, and we'll accept any feedback as well. So an overview of the plan. The existing conditions section of the plan is kind of the meat of the plan. We updated all of the maps across the corridor, as well as the individual town and city maps showing trail progress in the last 9 years. We have a section on trail groups that's pretty robust. We did a lot of outreach, and Cam Perlman will be giving an overview of that in a couple moments here. We have a challenges section that highlights some of the areas that trail groups have struggled with in the past. A data collection section, as well as results from a survey we did last spring of trail users. So the plan's vision is an interconnected network of trails that provide safe, equitable, active transportation and recreation opportunities to New Hampshire residents and visitors. We worked with a lot of regional and local partners on this plan. As I mentioned, the Central New Hampshire Planning Commission, Craig Tufts, was instrumental in getting this moving forward, as well as all the trail groups and local town staff and anyone involved with trails throughout our region and beyond. There's a section on trail benefits, health and safety. It may be obvious, but folks getting their bicycles and walking off the main roads and in their own space is obviously a safety benefit. And during COVID, we saw huge increases in many trails, people just trying to get out and a safe place to exercise. Environmental benefits, trying to avoid single occupancy vehicles on the road, and that is enhanced as these trails start to connect our downtowns and desirable destinations. The environmental benefits are enhanced. Economic benefits can come in the form of tourism or increased foot traffic to businesses that are located along the trails. And the Grind Cafe and Dairy might be the best example of that. So here to the left, you can see the map of the trails that we examined in the plan. It ran from the Mass border in Salem all the way up to Concord and beyond. In the plan, we broke it down into the southern and northern sections, with Manchester being the kind of the center point. And then the east-west spurs, the Rockingham Trail to the east and the Goffstown and New Boston Rail Trails to the west. For trail gaps, we have a separate map here. I won't go through each of these gaps in detail, but you can see they're numbered from south to north, 1 through 10. And we did dive into some detail in the plan. This is an example from the town of Londonderry, the gap that many of you are aware of near the airport. That was recipient of a 2018 Transportation Alternatives grant to connect to the South Manchester Rail Trail. Manchester also received a grant, $800,000 in federal funding with a $200,000 local match. And the idea is for the projects to connect at the town line. And so Manchester will be connected to Londonderry and then eventually Derry and Salem. So I'm going to turn it over to Cam for the next couple slides. He did a lot of the outreach to the trail groups. So Cam, if you're there, can take it away.
Hello. Yeah, so as a part of this plan, we wanted to reach out to all of the different organizations who are involved in the various rail trails across our region. And so the section in the document, it highlights all of these organizations and committees, commissions who are responsible for the success and the oversight of the region's trail network. And we asked each group to submit some information about their organization, as well as their role in the trail network, some goals and accomplishments, and some general contact information. We wanted to highlight all these groups because ultimately they're vital to the success and the growth of the trail network for the whole region. And I'm not going to go through every one, but on the next slide, Adam, if you could switch to that. This is just an example of some of the information that we were highlighting in the plan. So this is the Derry Rail Trail, and so this is some of the information they sent over. So some recent accomplishments in the fall of 2020. The construction of the rail trail section from North Hood Park in downtown Derry to North High Street, which is the final section, the town-owned rail bed of the corridor. And then also worked with the town on the recent TAP application. And one of the goals that they listed was the completion of the trail in Derry, connecting north to Londonderry town line and linking up with the Londonderry Trail. So again, this is just an example of some of the content that we have in the plan that, we're trying to showcase these groups who do so much work on these trails.
Thanks, Cam. So some of the challenges, this is just an example. Trail maintenance, always one of the biggest issues, keeping trails in good condition, removing trash, as you can see in the lower picture there. One of the things that trail groups were concerned with, finding volunteers to do these things is sometimes a challenge in the smaller communities. Fundraising, always an issue as well. Federal funding streams, as some of you know, include TAP, CMAQ, and the Recreational Trails Program. There never seems to be enough funding to go around, and the local match can be a challenge as well. Usually 20% of the federal funding. And then e-bikes were something we looked at a little more closely this time around than in 2012. These are bicycles with a small electric motor on them that can go up to 20 miles per hour. And it's kind of a double-edged sword. They allow more people who might not otherwise bike to get out on the trails, but the challenge is in managing potential conflicts with pedestrians and maybe a mother with a child or someone who wants a slower stroll on the trail. So the data collection section, kind of highlighted by our bike ped counting program. Here on the left, you can see a flyer we made maybe a year or so ago. And if you look here, you can see our gray infrared bike ped counter. Here it's on think that's the Londonderry Rail Trail, and then on a sidewalk on Granite Street in Manchester. Since 2017, we've been counting both on trails and sidewalks, and we've now done 20 trail counts, and 20 sidewalk counts and 36 different trail counts in 11 of our 14 communities. We usually put this unit out for 2 to 3 weeks at a time, and we're always taking requests. If someone in your town has a location they'd like to see counted, we can definitely do that, and we count year round. And this map down here is a little hard to see, but that's gives you an idea of the wide range of places we've counted in the region. On the right here, this is basically a day in the life of a rail trail. Starting at midnight here to midnight the next day. The orange line shows usage patterns in the summer, and the blue line is a winter count. So you can see here, the 9 o'clock hour in the morning is by far the highest peak. And then you see about 6 to 7 o'clock at night in the summer is the second highest peak. In the winter, obviously the numbers are much lower, but it's interesting to note that the pattern is basically the exact same pattern in the winter. We have a lot more data like this. This is just an example. So if any data you want to see, just let me know and we can share that with you. So there was also a survey done about a year ago now across the region and even up into the central part of the state. We had 238 respondents from 40 different municipalities. The most respondents came from Londonderry and Hooksett. Demographically, we did have 50% of the respondents were over the age of 55. And despite our efforts to reach out to younger groups, only about 10% of respondents were under 35. So that's something to keep in mind when you see these results. So this question here, how do you find out about the trails? It was somewhat surprising to me that local knowledge and word of mouth were by far the top ways people hear about trails, more so than websites and signage. So that was kind of interesting to me. Another question, what safety and maintenance concerns do you have for existing trails? Trash, litter, and graffiti is number one. About 47% of people mentioned that. Parking came in second, about 42%. And then dogs off leash was number 3. Some of the other things that were mentioned, lack of crosswalks, debris on the trails, signage and lighting, ATVs and snowmobiles using the trail, and crime. And then the final example I have here is what improvements could be made to existing trails. Maps at trailheads was number 1, and mile markers was a close second. You can see over here, better trail signage is on the list as well. So all 3 of those items I classify under signage. So that to me stood out as something that folks would like to see done better on trails in our region. So that's a very quick overview. If you haven't seen the plan yet, it's available on our website. If you just go to snhpc.org, right on the homepage, and click down here on the draft regional trails plan, that will link you to the document itself. And we're asking for any comments by July 9th so we can incorporate them and wrap up the plan. So thank you for listening, and take any questions.
Seems like an easy way to maybe do the maps would be put some kind of barcode on the trails where people can just scan it onto their phone and then have the map. Have you guys looked at that?
Not specifically, but that's a good comment. I'll make a note of that.
Are there any hard copies of maps, or is it all on the web?
We have not printed out the plan yet since it's in draft form.
I meant just
The maps.
any rails. I always go to Manchester.
I would suspect each trail organization produces their own map of their system.
Okay, so I'd have to contact them if I wanted a hard copy.
Speaking for my own town, yes, you were to log on to our, our town's rail
You-
trail.
You might try their
Right at the
website.
top would be a link for the map.
I'm pretty sure Londonderry
I
has
think-
something online, but I haven't looked for it because I know where they are. But I just want to congratulate you guys for doing a wonderful job. As somebody's been around a very long time, I can remember when this was a dream, and to see it becoming such a successful reality really cheers me.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks so much, Adam, and thanks, Carl. Two really great presentations.
All right, moving on, the overview of the 2021 Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission field work with Monique.
Hello, I just need to be made co-host so I can share my presentation.
Let's see. Withdraw co. I think you already are.
Okay. You're right, thank you. All right, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Although I'm in my cube, I'm really happy to have people in the office and have it feel super lively. I'm fresh out of the field myself. It's a traffic counting day. So I'm going to provide everyone an overview of the 2021 fieldwork, and we're about a quarter of the way through our field season, so I can provide some updates as well. This summer, we have about 400 traffic counting sites to collect and submit. We have about 400 or about 200 counts that we collect for DOT, and so those include regular volume counts in addition to classification counts. And then we also have an additional 200 counts that we collect for our regional travel demand model. And this rotates on a 3-year annual basis. So in total, we have about 1,200 sites throughout the region that we monitor and collect data from. Here's the total, so about 194 for DOT and 214 for SNHPC. Additionally, we really like to emphasize to all of our communities and let them know that we have special request counts available. Any municipality can request counts, whether it be a simple volume count. We have the ability to collect speed data. We also have the ability to collect turning movement data, which is data that shows the turning at intersections, so origin destination. And then we also are able to collect vehicle classification data, which breaks down the different types of vehicles on the road by axle. And so for volume, we can create any type of data that you need, whether it's broken down all the way down to 15-minute intervals, 30-minute intervals, an hour long. Some people are just interested in getting the AM and PM peak data so they can see for congestion. And others just want your average daily totals. So on the right here, you'll see this is our standard collection. We'll get 3 days worth of data, and this is what we use to publish to get the average daily count at that site. Our speed stats break down the counts into certain categories by 10 and 5-mile-an-hour increments. So that way you can tell the average speed and what outliers there are. Some municipalities have used this to catch certain speeders at certain places where residents will hear it, or they know of a dangerous driver that is consistently passing on that road. So we've set up a speed count, which showed when the person was traditionally driving and speeding around the neighborhood, and they were able to put out a police officer and speak to that person and take care of it. We also have a mile vision camera, which is a camera that is strapped to a telephone pole. It goes up about 25 feet and looks down at the intersection. And then that data is sent up to Canada, processed, and then brought back down to give you origin and destination information of where different vehicles are going. The town of Manchester is actually taking advantage of this. We are conducting 4 intersection turning movement counts for them, all over the course of a week, so that we are able to get them data from a similar time frame on a similar corridor. And the last type of count that we are able to conduct is a vehicle classification count. So what it is a 2-tube setup, and based off of the number of hits that the tires make on the tubes, an air pulse is sent down to the box, and which records it. And it is able to differentiate between all the different classes of vehicles, all the way up to a 7 or more axle vehicle. And if it's unclassifiable, if it's unable to be classified, that is the class 14, whether it be a bicyclist or something that just ran over a funky or something like that. But for the most part, we're able to classify about 95% of the traffic. Everyone has heard Adam and Cam talk about the bike ped counting program. We have 2 counters that we deploy throughout the region for a couple weeks out of a time. We collect this data to support different bike ped initiatives, trail work, and more. And so we have our traditional stations that we consistently monitor, and then are attempting to fill different gaps in both the rail trail network and also sidewalk data that we're hoping to make more robust. And this is a chart that Adam had just done a quick overview on, but showing the summer and winter peaks, as there are people using the trails and they're using them consistently. So it's nice to see this data, and we have historical data at some of these sites for 2 or 3 years at this point. So it's interesting to see this moving forward. Next, I'm going to dive into the SAIDS work that we do. So the Statewide Asset Data Exchange System is a program that is a partnership with many different organizations across the state. The idea is to collect data in a unified form and also maintain and organize that data under one database. The UNH Technology Transfer Center hosts and manages that database. And so all of the RPCs across the state have access to the different types of programs. And we are all taught the same protocols so that the data is collected efficiently. And there are several assets that we're able to collect. So we have our RSMS program, Road Surface Management System. We have our Stream Crossing Assessment Program, and we are looking for a pilot program, looking for a municipality to partner with a pilot program on conducting a pedestrian infrastructure inventory. So the Road Surface Management System is a program where we go out into your municipality and we survey all of the local road network. And so what we do is a windshield survey, assessing your local road network 1/4 mile at a time. And so we look for various different types of distresses in the roads. We also look for different types of drainage and pitches in the road, so that we're able to tell where about your pavement condition is currently. And then we're also able to use the data that we collect in the field to forecast that out and say, about how long does this road have to last, and what is this going to look like as time goes on and the road naturally degrades. Then we're able to prescribe different types of treatments that can help prevent the degradation of the road. So whether a municipality has a goal that they want their entire road network to be increased, or if there's certain main roads that they want to focus on. We have different ranking systems as far as importance of the road within the municipality. And then we also consider things like emergency services as well as emergency evacuation routes, so that these roads are prioritized so that they are always safe and in good condition. And the deliverable of that is that we're able to provide the forecasting and treatment options for municipalities to move forward, moving 10 years into the future as a way to maintain and improve the road network. For the pedestrian infrastructure inventory, this also is collected in segments, so the segments aren't broken out into certain lengths. It's rather by the block and the consistency of the sidewalk. So we conduct condition assessments, including the type of sidewalk it is, whether or not there's curbing, and then different quantitative measures such as the width and depth of the sidewalk and more. So this operates as a asset management tool for DPW, for them to know, what's on the ground, what condition is it in. And there's also an emphasis on ADA compliance, Americans with Disability compliance. So 2 of the fields that are collected are minimum passable width. So when we're looking for the minimum passable width, we're trying to find which part of the sidewalk that gets pinched, whether it be from a fire hydrant, street furniture, a street tree, something along those lines that makes the sidewalk no longer passable. So we're looking for these items to note whether or not these sidewalks are able to be ADA compliant. And I do see a question.
Hi, this is Barbara Salvatore from Bedford.
Hello.
I've been part of the Manchester Area Committee on Aging for a large number of years. And one of the problems we found with ADA compliance was really more related to the surface of the pedestrian paths, particularly in downtown Manchester, where there are parts of sidewalks that are bricks, and bricks do not wear equally, creating potholes for people using walkers or people who are using canes. And is that something that you might also consider looking at?
Yep, so in addition to some of the fields that I talked about, there's different parameters for what is passable on a wheelchair. So anything above a 1/4 inch, they consider a barrier, as that could stop you. So we look for cracks that are a 1/4 inch, different levels of whether, like you mentioned, talking about brick, or if the 2 concrete pads, if there's roots going underneath and you see a little bit of this, that's also something that is measured and written down and documented so that it can be addressed as quickly as possible. In the town of Manchester, I believe that they are conducting a sidewalk inventory through a private consultant. And so I'm not sure how in depth the conditions will be, but I know that they are working on getting a sidewalk assessment for the whole town. Thank you for that. Up next, as a part of SAIDS, is that we collect stream crossing data. So the stream crossing data collection initiative is sort of a combination of a couple departments. So what we're looking for ultimately is what the data ultimately boils down to are a couple of scores. So one of the scores is geomorphic compatibility, which is essentially, does the structure that we're measuring match up with the stream in a way that when there's water flooding, is it appropriately sized for the stream, or is it going to give out and then cause issues such as in the Mother's Day floods of 2006 and 2007. Another one of the scores that comes out of the assessment is aquatic passage. So are animals able to get through the culvert itself. This is important for different spawning grounds as well as the safety of some of these animals. So different attributes are collected, whether water is pouring out of the culvert at a free fall, so it's not possible for animals or even trout to jump up into it, or sometimes people will put screening in front of the structures which collect debris and also does not allow for aquatic passage. So the effort here is a statewide effort. As you can see in the map in the lower right-hand corner, it's an ongoing effort. So this has been going on since about 2008 and has been digitized in 2012. So across the state, there are thousands of sites that are assessed. And in our region, we worked with the Geological Survey to agree to assess 60 sites this summer, all throughout the region. So far, the data collection is going quicker than we were thinking. So we have more sites that can be prioritized, but we also invite municipalities to request collection at infrastructure that they would like a full assessment on. It's a 95-point assessment that takes about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the terrain and the size of the culvert. But we also take requests for municipalities to have those assessed. Additionally, James Veo in our office put together a vulnerability assessment of the region and utilized the stream crossing data and was able to provide a vulnerability score of the stream crossing itself and what that would look like if that blew out and the vulnerability of it and how that could affect the land around it. As always, we're always taking data requests, and if we can accommodate them, then we'll try our best moving forward, or we'll point you to a better resource. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask now, or you can email me at mduchesne@snhpc.org.
All right, thank you so much, Monique. And you can stop sharing your screen.
We have any other plans for MPO?
No, not for MPO, I don't believe. We've covered it all, thank goodness.
Motion to adjourn?
Al Hall motions to adjourn.
Second? Yes,
Dave Pierce, second.
Dave Pierce seconds. Are we good with thumbs up in the room? Thumbs up in the room. How about out there? Thank you, everyone. Good to see you. Thank you. All right, we're ready for the next part.
Call to order the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. First action is the meeting minutes of May 25th, 2021. We have a motion to approve.
I think I heard a tie between Al and Bill. Is that right? We'll give it to Al Hall. Bill, are you good for the second? Bill Herman seconds. All right, we'll go around the horn here. Auburn, Bill Herman.
Yes.
Bedford, Bill DeShaco.
Yes.
Charlie Fairman.
Yes.
Bill Jean.
Yes.
Barbara Salvatore.
Yes.
Brian Lord. Brian still with us? Okay. Brian has escaped. Candia Al Hall.
Yes.
Chester Deb Munson.
Yes.
Deerfield Bob Cody.
Yes.
Fred McGarry. Fred, you still with us? Think not. Derry, Jeff Moulton.
Stay.
And let's see, John O'Connor.
Okay.
Thank you. In Francistown, we have Al Eisenberg.
Yes.
Goffstown, we have Dave Pierce.
Yes.
Barbara Griffin.
Yes.
Thanks, Barbara. No one from Hooksett, Londonderry. We have Art Rugg.
Yes.
Wow, there's a lot of exciting noise on the Zoom session. All right, Brian Battaglia,
Yes.
Deb Levens,
Yes.
and Suzanne Brunel.
Yes.
Manchester, we have Ray Clement.
Yes.
Thanks, Ray. Peter Capano.
Yes.
In New Boston, we have Mark Sunan.
Yes.
And in Wyndham, Peter Griffin.
Yes.
And in Ware, Tom Clow.
Yes.
Thank
Aye.
you, everybody. So let's see, what do we have going on?
Broadband Success with Henry.
Henry Underwood. Oh, Henry, are you there?
I'm here, Sylvia.
Oh, there you are. Henry has been so patient. I have, do you want to make Henry a co-host? Yes. So Henry is our guest from Southwest Regional Planning Commission. And according to the executive director there, Tim Murphy, is an expert in broadband. And since we have so many communities that have tricky time with broadband and have a lot of questions about coverage, we thought that having Henry here would be great. Henry was decent enough to let us change which meeting he was going to be presenting to at least 4 times. But we're really glad Henry's here today. So take it away, Henry.
Thanks, Sylvia. And before I get started, could I get some kind of time check? I want to be respectful if you have a set end time.
Yeah, our end time is 1 o'clock, and I think I just need 5 minutes at the end. So you have, you know, a good 20 minutes of presenting and then 5 minutes with questions and answers.
Awesome. Thank you. So yeah, again, my name is Henry Underwood. I'm a GIS specialist and planner here at SWRPC. I'm involved with some of our traffic research and data collection activities, also some of our broadband coordination. And I'm here today to talk about our agency's work related to broadband, a little bit of the goings on. In the last year, we've been pretty active related to coordination and witnessed some good success stories related to broadband that I'll share with you later. If you don't know us, you know, our map's there on the right, but we're a 33 town, 1 city region. We have about 100,000 people. And includes all of Cheshire County, the western part of Hillsborough County, and 1 town in Sullivan County. So broadband's a hot topic right now, and we collect kind of stories on part of our website. You know, you've seen notes about educators and others needing to switch to remote instruction recently. Appointments and services switching to, you know, remote platforms, broadband-based platforms during the pandemic. That in our region has been made more difficult due to lack of services that meet the federal definition of broadband. There were in the last year some state funding and work. However, it had a limited impact in our region. And, you know, I think the highlight and something I'll get in more detail later is the work of individual communities to obtain kind of their own funding through municipal bonds. A very active year with regards to that work. So I think I'm preaching to the choir here about broadband. There's so many reasons why high quality and affordable internet is important to individuals, to businesses, to educators. You know, a very big range of reasons. Some of them are listed here. And to me, what really not throws me, but really gets me perks my ears up is how much each of these things have changed in the last year. How much that reliance or that need, increased. Okay, so a little bit of ancient history before I get to the more recent goings on. This covers the period kind of 2010 to 2014, and it's where our agency, but also your agency and others around the state were working on broadband-related planning activities. And during that work, we formed a stakeholder group that made up of some of the sectors you see listed here: real estate agents, public safety professionals, obviously municipalities, officials and staff, some practitioners in the industry. And the purpose was to assist SWRPC. You probably had a similar group and purpose, but to assist us in developing regional broadband plan, the first ever. So they work to identify and look at barriers to broadband service, kind of thought about some strategies to promote more collaboration between themselves, but also between themselves and internet service providers. We did a lot of mapping in that work, collecting information and analyzing kind of the demand for services and also the quality of services out there. And it laid out the challenges like lack of information and financial incentives for supporting municipalities that want to improve their infrastructure, finance their own projects, things like that. So since then, there's been more work, not so much on the data collection by us, so much as others. And I'll share a couple of quick examples for some context. And on the image on the left, we're seeing a snapshot of some speed test data that's collected by a group called Measurement Lab. If you type in speed test in Google and you click run, this is where it goes. And what I'm mapping is the median, the middle speed, download speed in this case, by town. And the dots, it's not super important, but the smallest dot goes up to 20 megabits per second download. And I guess what I'm putting it here to show you is that this is last month's data. This is today. There is a kind of a neat hole, or there is a kind of a void in the southwest corner of the state from lower speeds over time. It doesn't take a lot of in-depth analysis to see this is still an issue. And I also like to point out a new tool that was released last week that I've had a quick chance to look at, but like you to also be aware of. It's a map developed by the National Telecommunications and Infrastructure Administration, and it focuses on indicators of broadband need at various geographies. It includes how fast devices connect to the internet from a certain area, the percent of households that are subscribed to broadband and have a device, and some data from the providers themselves. So take a look at that if you're curious. NTIA indicators of broadband need, hot off the press. Okay, but more about what I wanted to share with you more is our work lately. It's focused on this entity called the Monadnock Broadband Group, and it's somewhat of an natural evolution of that broadband stakeholder group that I mentioned that was active during the regional planning phase. And they're an informal group. It includes municipal staff and officials, state legislators, representatives of federal delegation staff, kind of broadband advocates and champions. And they've wanted to continue to meet and learn about broadband issues, coordinate between themselves, and get some things done. So that includes some following legislative activity at the state level, keeping aware of how to participate in that process, learning from like private internet service providers, what their plans are, what's on the horizon, what are they doing lately. They work to develop a resource guide, which I'll showcase later, that you could consider within using or consulting in your region. And I guess that what follows is kind of some of the highlights of that group's activity that we've helped to put together kind of on their behalf. And I'll start kind of the oldest stuff first, but in 2018, I picked this one as a highlight. The group met when something called the Mobility Fund Phase Challenge was going on. And this was a FCC initiative that would provide about $4.5 billion nationally to improve wireless broadband, like 4G LTE, if you're familiar with that. And the state had an opportunity to challenge what providers said were the areas they served, the areas that would not be eligible for those funds. And so folks in our region wanted to learn more about that process from the PUC and how to actually create or contribute to that map of areas that are served and unserved. And the PUC staff came to talk about, the challenge process. It was very fast moving, and a number of people came out of that meeting with plans to literally purchase cell phones and data plans, and we're driving roads around our region to get a better idea of that coverage, to the goal being make ourselves more eligible for that. So it was kind of a team effort, but it involved like our region's Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Corporation and county. And there were some great findings shared about the process and what we learned through the data collection. So another example, and the dates here are the meeting dates. And this one I'll note is the first time we made an effort to record our meetings, to make them available on an ongoing basis. So you can see on the right, this is something that a town or someone who couldn't make the meeting can just pull up on YouTube and watch through again. But this was following the town of Chesterfield's success in obtaining general obligation bonds for a broadband project, a public-private partnership with, in this case, Consolidated. So he created a presentation, almost like an instruction book, about their whole process from the time he invested, in the work, which he estimated at around 300 hours, and weighing how to form a group to go through the process, the mathematics he used to calculate the public benefits. So a lot of rich detail, a lot of materials that became kind of the foundation of other towns that wanted to replicate this. They came here to get some of that knowledge. We had, almost as a follow-up to that, later in the year, staff, actually the executive director of the New Hampshire Bond Bank, to kind of make a municipal bonding 101 course. Again, presentation materials, on-demand content, and responding to kind of a need that's out there that many towns in our region don't bond regularly, or they haven't done so in many, many years. And there needs to be some little bit of education there for what is, volunteer groups working on this. So this kind of meeting event focused on the Bod Bank, but also the groups listen to what's going on around us. And we heard from folks in Vermont talk about a regional model they have called communication union districts. Okay, so think this is almost at the last highlight. So another soundbite. In October of last year, we released something called our Broadband Implementation Guide, which I'll go through in a minute. We also had a presentation on a recently passed state law that would enable something called communication districts. And essentially, they're modeled after something like a water and sewer district in New Hampshire, but now in the state have the benefit of adding broadband and broadband infrastructure to their portfolio. These have not been, delved into, and the purpose was to, have an expert lay out how this could work. And we brought in kind of our full regional commission members to kind of get tuned into this as well. So I mentioned the guide, and I want to spend a little bit more time on this because I think it's a success story, of the last year. It's a key, it was a collaboration itself because we worked with individual members of the broadband group as well as at the staff level to put this together. And what its purpose is to lay out a general approach to for a municipality that wants to improve broadband, in their community. It assumes, it's being taken on by volunteers. They don't have, they have a little to no experience with broadband related issues. So the purpose is to bring them up to speed and put together a toolkit of information to get through the process. It's not technically a single recipe for improving broadband, but it does focus on the model utilized by the town of Chesterfield and Consolidated Communications. And that's what's kind of laid out in the steps here. So we get into, making that local committee or working group, laying out the options there, how they get together and work through the other steps, ways to assess how interested in your community is to improve broadband. In our case, it's been really high, but there are ways to do this through surveys, outreach, collecting data from even things like complaints on Facebook. There's a lot of ways that can happen. The municipal bonding process for broadband requires municipalities use something called a request for information. And that gives a town knowledge about who's served by what provider at what level. That's fairly new and introduced, just prior to Chesterfield working through this model. And, picking a funding implementation model that works for them. Public-private partnership is one, but it's not the only one. Towns basically take the information of what they've learned from their community, their service providers, to develop an RFP, a request for proposals about what their needs are, and on through a selection process. And the bond issuance, if it were bond funded, is itself a very, very rigorous process itself. Cool. So the guide lays out those in a pretty formulaic way. It's one of the resources we make available at our broadband webpage, where again, the group can kind of learn and coordinate afterwards, by knowing, by watching content, accessing materials, just being part of an email list. We keep track of news around our region. It's been popular for folks to keep up to date with that. I see there's a hand raised, and I'm happy to stop for a quick question.
Hi, this is Barbara Salvatore from Bedford. Does your plan address the affordability for the consumer? And I'm not thinking about people who are on SSI, but more the lower middle class who may earn enough to keep things together, but sometimes the cost of internet connections are a large chunk out of people's budgets.
Great comment. And the answer is yes, affordability is brought up as part of the plan. I think it's been maybe less of a recent discussion item, but just to give you a sense of like how folks have responded to that, the FCC recently announced a program that's kind of temporary due to the pandemic, but it reduces monthly bills. What we did is connect folks to the materials used to advertise that to their constituents. I think it's going to continue to be a topic though in the future. So our website has a lot of info where members can stay up to date of news, what's going on in the legislative calendar, and access resources, including our plan, funding guides, map items like the ones I showed earlier. Also kind of it serves as kind of like a peer connecting point for the various committees to follow what each other are working on. So try to wrap up here in the next minute, but I wanted to point out the public-private partnership success that's happened since the town of Chesterfield. They're highlighted here in green. And what we've seen is basically I guess, you could call it an explosion of communities that want to do these projects. In blue was the year, the town meeting after Chesterfield. In red is this year. I think I have it complete, but these are the towns that are seeking broadband infrastructure bonds and working out agreements between themselves and a provider to deploy fiber to the home solutions. And they've been very successful with voters. So the lowest I'm aware of in our region was 85% voting in favor, and it goes up to 100% in the town of Jaffrey this year. So really excited to see what next year brings. So I'll more or less close on that as far as what's going on in our region. I do want to say if you still have a hunger to talk and learn more, there is a opportunity actually tomorrow via the New Hampshire Planners Association to hear from some other folks around the state and what they're doing. I encourage you to consider attending. And I'll stop there and happy to answer any questions.
What upload speed do you define as broadband?
Okay, great question. So I think where the one we most often refer to is the FCC definition, which is 25 megabits per second download, 3 megabits per second upload. And that's an important threshold because our state laws bake that into the process to obtain funding through bonds. You can only do so for the areas that are not being served by that threshold.
Do you think that's sufficient?
Personally, no. I was, one of the many people working from home, or having two people work from home and children, and I think I was in the camp where that upload speed was not cutting it. So I'm not aware of, I guess, the discussions around changing that, but I'll say that the projects that municipalities are picking offer symmetrical speeds of 1,000 megabits. So that's what people are wanting.
Right. Yep.
Al Hall from Candia, regarding the bonding and Chesterfield. I noticed that they got the green light on quick, my terms, quick vote. And I'm just wondering how much of a selling job did the project people have to do to get that vote? The reason I ask that is because every time the town of Candia tries to just mentions the word bonding, it's like a black mark. And the only other thing I'll tell you is we've got a lot of stubborn, hard-headed Yankees in our town. And how do you, what's the salesmanship tip, I guess, to Chesterfield? Because I gotta believe Chesterfield is sort of similar to Candia.
Yeah, I think we have a lot in common. And these projects can be $1 million, $2 million of a municipal obligation. So it can be a big deal.
Save a lot of money.
So here's an aspect to the model you might not know about. As part of these bonds, there's also an arrangement and a legal agreement between the town and the provider that they make payments on the bond via people who are subscribing to the new service. So part of this is the amount, the money that needs to be paid on the bond is coming through subscribers, not from, directly from property taxation. And also the bonding process has a lot of not salesmanship, but public presentations and learning opportunities that are required and that happen for every one of these.
From Chester. I'm just wondering who the providers seem to be in most of these towns. Is it, telephone companies or do you have cable providers as well?
Yeah, we have a whole mix. We have small cable companies, big cable companies, but it's mostly Consolidated Communications is the single biggest entity. And they're the ones that seem to be most interested in these partnerships. Not the only one, but the majority of municipalities are selecting Consolidated via that RFP process.
I think that's probably a good thing. I consider it unfortunate when there's a lot of bundling of cable with internet service and the prices just escalate and make it unreachable for people. So, to bundle it some other way is probably a good thing.
Good questions. Any other questions? I think I'm right at time here.
Thank you, Henry.
Thanks so much, Henry. Really appreciate your time. And I invite any of the communities if they want to reach out or we can figure something out. Barbara, do you still have a question or you just have your hand up? No, okay, good. The only other thing I wanted to mention while everyone is, I'll say in the room, is that surprisingly, we have, I believe, 9 communities, maybe it's 8, 8 communities that are needing membership. And so I'll just mention Bedford has an open regular membership. Candia, Dick Snow, he just announced he will not be continuing on. Derry has an open regular member. Francistown has an open member plus executive committee member. Goffstown has an open regular member. Hooksett will have presently has 1, but Dick Marshall also announced that he would not be continuing. Londonderry has an open regular member and Manchester has an open regular member. So please get the word out, talk to your officials, your town officials, your planning board folks. We're really a fun group, you can tell, and pizza is now on the house. So, I mean, you can't beat it. And we have amazing guests like Henry Underwood. So thanks, everybody. And all we need now is, yeah, oh, there's a comment. Bill,
The Bedford Review membership has been chosen, we're waiting confirmation.
okay. Bill DeShaco has announced that their member has been chosen. They're waiting confirmation. Just let us know if anyone else in your community has volunteered to be a member of the commission. Is that it, Jeff? That's it. We just need a motion to adjourn. So moved, Al. Thumbs up, everyone here and
Yes.
virtually. Thanks, everybody, for your time. We made it happen. Thank you so much.
Yes, it's gonna have 2 o'clock.